Hello everyone, welcome back to Joe Talks Politics. I am your host, Joseph Musia. In 1983, members of the apartheid security branch lured a young ANC and Umkhonto Sizwe activist Nokuthula Simelane to a bogus meeting in Johannesburg. From there, she was abducted, detained and eventually murdered. Her family is still trying to get the alleged killers held accountable for their deeds. Nokuthula Simelane was a freedom fighter who answered the call of the liberation movement at the time to take up arms to fight the injustice of apartheid. Her younger sister Thembi is now the Minister of Justice. She is in the midst of a serious scandal involving the collapse of VBS Mutual Bank. This comes from her time as the mayor of the Polokwane Local Municipality. It was one of the municipalities in Limpopo that invested millions of rands in VBS, which bank was then fleeced by corrupt managers in cahoots with politicians. Scores of poor investors lost their life savings when the bank collapsed. There are reports that some people were impacted so much that they even took their own lives. Nkadimeng appeared before Parliament's Justice and Constitutional Development Committee on Friday to answer questions about this matter. She confirmed that she did borrow more than R500,000 from Gundo Wealth Solutions to buy a coffee shop in Sandton. This is a company that was appointed by the Polokwane Local Municipality at whose helm Nkadimeng sat to provide investment advice. Gundo was also appointed by VBS to get municipalities to invest in it. It did indeed convince the municipality to invest 349 million rands in VBS. Most importantly, it was while Gundo was providing advisory services to the municipality that Nkadimeng approached them for advice and then eventually a loan.
And I made this consideration precisely because to ensure that I have got an alternative when the public office life comes to an end. Initially, I intended to withdraw partially from my retirement savings, which were coming from the pension of being an employee of the state for about 15 years. I experienced difficulties because of the cost and the charges. If I recall very well, the pension was somewhere at around 800,000 odds. And the percentage of tax and all that was making the whole idea not feasible. I asked Gundo for advice on any other idea on how best I could finance. And I was advised against the withdrawal of the retirement savings that I spoke about. And in those discussions, Gundo then informed me and advised of a loan product that they have that I could access. In consideration for the options loan, Gundo was not a service provider, as I had said. There existed no conflict in my view in securing a loan from Gundo. I took a decision to proceed with the business.
There are several questions arising from the minister's submission. She advances the argument that there was nothing wrong in taking a loan from Gundo because it was not a contractor to the municipality. Yet at the same time, she admits that the company was appointed by the council as its investment advisor and manager. So it was not a random organization she approached from the street to ask for investment advice. Additionally, how did she miss that Gundo was not registered as a credit provider? Did she really not know this? As someone who held the high position of mayor, how come she did not seek legal advice on whether she could take a loan from a company that was clearly doing business with the municipality? She instead claims that it was not a contractor because it was not being paid by the council and instead was earning a commission. I do not know if Minister Simelane broke any laws because she is not the subject of any official investigation, nor has she been charged or found guilty of any crime. But at the heart of the matter, and why there is a clamoring for her to step down or be removed from a position, is because many feel that she could be conflicted as Minister of Justice. There are already many people who have been convicted, while others are standing trial for their involvement in the demise of VBS. She could end up being investigated with a view to prosecution. As Justice Minister who oversees the work of the National Prosecuting Authority, she wields enormous power. She sought to assure members that there was no possibility of her interfering with the decisions of the NPA.
We all remember, some of us more painfully than others, the demise of Advocate Vusi Pikoli as the National Director of Public Prosecutions when Jackie Selebi was prosecuted, and he wouldn't back down. He was instructed to not proceed with the prosecution by the Minister of Justice. He refused to do that because Vusi Pikoli is an honorable man. And he lost his job because of it, much to the absolute destruction of the NPA. Because what happened at the NPA after Mr. Pikoli left could not have happened while he was there. And I think we all know that, and I think you know that too. And he was fired then because there was this supposed breakdown of a relationship between himself and the Justice Minister, who at the time was Minister, I think, Mabandla. Now, if it is so as you want us to believe here, that there's absolutely no possibility of a Justice Minister having any influence over the NPA, and I agree with you, there should be no such influence, and the NPA should tolerate no such influence, none. It's a non-thing, it should never be allowed, but we live in the real world, and we've seen this happen. And so it's not true that the Justice Minister does not have influence over the NPA, even if it's a very subtle influence. Of course you do.
It's already been mentioned that you have final responsibility over the NPA. I've just also been looking at the Act. I see that you appoint directors, deputy directors. There's something there about your contribution to remuneration scales. I don't think it's far-fetched to at least suspect or fear that prosecutors will feel it's bad for your health to act against the minister's interests. Even if we accept your undertaking that you won't ask for VBS-related reports, etc., these people work under you. And like I say, there are several provisions of how you can limit your career if you get on the wrong side of the minister. To that end, I also want to note, Honorable Matafa was saying, can you promise us that if VBS things come across your desk, you'll deal with them impartially? The problem is, even if we took your promise to do so seriously, there is good reason for the general public to perceive the possibility of nefarious things happening.
So why did I bring the name of Nokuthula Simelane into this whole thing? Well, it is my understanding and belief that those who died fighting for apartheid are betrayed by any act of corruption. It is worse when those involved were themselves part of the freedom struggle. It is in fact the ultimate act of selling out and counter-revolution. It could be that Thembi Nkadimeng is an honest, hard-working minister without a corrupt bone in her body. In fact, she tells us that she is. But we have been burnt too many times to take her word for it. We had a president busy selling the country under our noses because we believed that it was impossible for someone in that position to even think of doing such a thing. He abdicated his responsibility to an Indian family, and we hear they were even announcing the appointment of ministers. And in order to aid them further, he destroyed the capacity of especially the crime-fighting agencies and repurposed them to serve his own needs. This is besides using over 200 million rands in public funds to build himself a palace. Today the country sits with almost empty coffers because the money is being used to fix the mess he caused. So Minister Nkadimeng needs to understand that this matter will not just disappear. We wish we could believe her when she says,
I have nothing to hide. That's why I am here.
why should we believe her? We've had the wool pulled over our eyes too many times already. Corruption is robbing South Africa of an opportunity to take its place among the nations of the world as a prosperous country. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and share it and consider subscribing. Subscriptions are free. See you in the next one.